Assalamu alaikum and welcome to a new episode of The Why Teacher. Today what I'm talking about is the rights of the child. And I think that this is an important topic for our educational institutions and if we want our children to be successful. So, children's rights. Let's look at it from the perspective of a classroom. What does a classroom that promotes children's rights look like? All right, so a classroom that promotes the child's right to disagree is a very critical classroom. It's a classroom which promotes critical thinking and logical reasoning. So if the teacher is teaching the child about a certain concept and a child disagrees, it's actually a great thing because that means there is going to be some form of discussion that's going to happen. So instead of the teacher actually telling the child that they're wrong and give them the facts again, it would be good to investigate the child's thoughts and see why he or she tends to think that way. This is something that is going to produce a classroom or create a classroom environment that promotes diverse perspectives, and it's a classroom that is also going to probe the children to investigate their own thoughts and investigate their own ideas and come to logical and more informed conclusions. And so now point number 3 is something that we all need to remember as teachers but as well as parents. So children have the right to make mistakes because it is through our mistakes that we grow, that we learn, that we move forward. And so if mistakes are going to be tabooed or labeled or are going to be, children are going to be punished severely based on that, then that is in fact going to, first of all, rid children of their rights, a basic right of growth. And the second thing, it's going to be a very harmful process for the child internally because children internalize every reaction that we give them. And so it's extremely important to keep it positive, to keep it, looking at mistakes as the best teachers. So give children the opportunity to make those mistakes, to look at and reflect on why that was a mistake, to provide them with the steps to move forward as to how to overcome this failure. And your support and facilitation is all that children require to learn from their mistakes, and it is their right to make mistakes. Number 4 is the reason why I became an educator. So I believe children have the right to equal opportunity, and I felt that growing up, there were moments in being a student inside a classroom where I felt that, I would have done that better, or I could have done that differently, or if only the teacher would have allowed me to, also participate. Children have a different way of looking at opportunities. So, you might as a teacher have already, kind of created a group inside your classroom saying, these are my speakers, these are my authors, these are my writers, these are my, presenters. But it's only fair if you give every child an opportunity, a fair opportunity to prove themselves. I remember an incident where there was this young child in my classroom. She was a little girl. She was very petite in her appearance, and so everybody always looked at her as delicate and fragile. And so through an activity where I asked children to, imitate different animals they'd like to be in a jungle, she chose to be a lion, and everybody was pushing her to be, the rabbit or something, that was meek and very to her appearance. It was eye-opening for me to see how children want to be. So to think that children are always going to be thinking the same way or be the same selves is kind of like unfair. I think that when you receive a whole bunch of kids every year, do listen to what the previous teachers have to say, but then also give them opportunities to evolve. I think that is very, very necessary to children's growth. And if you are going to be a teacher who understands their right to equal opportunity, then that is surely going to happen. So learning really happens through resources. The teacher herself is a resource, so you should be accessible to all children. At the same time, you should have a bunch of resources inside your classroom that children can, access. So every resource might not be useful for every child inside your classroom. So you first of all have to make sure that you have, all the resources that are going to be, required within your classroom space. Plus, you have to make them accessible. So you shouldn't say that, if you finish your, task early, then you have access to these games, these learning games, or you have access to, do a certain activity. I think children should always have access to the resources inside the classroom, and you should keep adding them. You should keep adding on to them, because children are very, very smart in a lot of ways. So once they are done with a certain set of resources, they want new ones. So encourage the fact that your school might be able to provide you with all the resources. If not so, then be creative and take the help of children and create your own resources, and let every single child celebrate the other's created creation, because I feel like that also gives a lot of value and self-esteem to a child. If a child has created a resource that you feel is beneficial, let other children, encourage other children to come and look at those resources, use those resources, and make sure that you always have them at hand, so that children can do the best of their ability. They can reach their potential. Finally, I would say children have the right to experience success. So yes, you have those naturally gifted kids inside your classroom who are very good at their academics and always are getting a good grade. You have those children who are wonderful singers, and they're always being selected for different events in the school. But then you have that lot of children who are quite quiet and sadly kind of disappear within the classroom environment. You need to find out what are they good at. You need to find out what are some things that they can do to experience that kind of success, which is so important to every child's positive upbringing. And so if you can provide a platform, if you don't have it created, provide that child with that platform to experience that success and share that success with his classmates and the other people around, because every child deserves to have that experience. And that experience does a lot for the child, as far as his confidence goes, as far as his awareness of his own abilities goes, and how he really or she really looks at himself or herself. So these are the 5 or 6 different children's rights. Children have many rights, but these are just some really important ones that are going to make your classroom appear as a very critical, as a very fair, as a very happy place for children to be. So if you are already engaged in these rights inside your classroom, good for you, very proud of you. But if you feel there are some aspects that are missing, do incorporate them into your classrooms, and you'll see how much your children adore you and love you for that. Till next time, Allah Hafiz.